Episode 255 of the Aggressive Progressive Podcast. Weird days ahead. Let's start the show.
We are now the defenders of the stronghold of democracy and of equal opportunity.
You and I, as citizens, have the obligation to shape the debates of our time, not only with the votes we cast, but with the voices we lift.
The people are looking for honest answers, not easy answers.
The very word secrecy is repugnant.
Clear leadership.
And we are, as a people,
not false claims and evasiveness and politics as usual.
opposed to secret society.
But ours was a nation of the ballot, not the bullet.
And a secret proceedings.
As a people, we cannot afford to let any group of citizens or any individual citizen live or labor under conditions which are injurious to the common welfare.
Black, white, Latino, Asian, Native American, young, old, gay, straight, men, women, folks with disabilities, all pledging allegiance under the same proud flag to this big, bold country that we love. That's what I see. That's the America I know.
Not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
There is nothing wrong with America that cannot be cured by what is right with America.
Welcome to the Aggressive Progressive Podcast. I am your host, Chris Hahn. I am at Christopher Hahn on X, Christopher Hahn NY on Instagram, and ChristopherHahn.com. Thank you for liking, rating, reviewing, telling your friends, and subscribing to the Aggressive Progressive Podcast. Continuing to grow. I think we're in our 5th year now, so thank you for listening. I think that the future always beats the past. I remember when Bob Dole ran for president against Bill Clinton. I was young. I was in college. But I remember when Bob Dole ran for president against Bill Clinton, and he said, "Let me be a bridge to the past." Bill Clinton, at his convention, said, "Let me be a bridge to the future." And that framed the entire campaign. And Bill Clinton obviously went on to beat Bob Dole. You don't have any memories of President Dole. Dole was a good man, but, Dole was a very old man, too, at the time. Not as old as Trump is now. I mean, Trump is significantly older than Bob Dole was. So if you remember Bob Dole as a really old guy, Trump's like 10 years older than Bob Dole was when he ran for president. Just keep that in mind. Donald Trump is not just framing this election as a bridge to the past, the nation's past. He's framing this election as, let me be president so I could relitigate all the grievances I have personally from what happened to me as president. Not about you, right? I've said this before. You've heard me say this. Elections aren't about what the candidate will do for themselves. It's what the candidate will do for you. Donald Trump has a lot of personal grievances that he likes to air at his rallies. He's got a lot of personal problems that he wants to relitigate. So I don't know how that competes with Kamala Harris's message of a brighter future for America, making sure people have health care and that Social Security doesn't go bankrupt, and that people could retire with dignity, and that people can work with dignity. I don't know. I don't even know what Trump's message is, to be honest with you, other than elect me and I will be your retribution. This whole, are they weird? I mean, look, J.D. Vance didn't help himself with his cat lady comments. And then his Diet Mountain Dew quip. His rollout has been horrible, right? Usually what you want for a VP candidate is you want everybody to cheer when you announce them, and then that's it. You don't want that person to be a problem. You want that person to help you in their home state or with maybe a demographic that you have problems with or that is uneasy with you. I think Donald Trump did a great job picking Mike Pence as his running mate 8 years ago. Why? Because evangelicals really liked Mike Pence. And they were weary of Donald Trump. They thought he was weird. They thought that he didn't share their values. And they were right, by the way, that he still doesn't share their values. The pick for J.D. Vance was a pick of a guy who thought he was going to win. And he probably was going to win at that time. Donald Trump would have beaten Joe Biden. I said it on this program many a time over the last couple of weeks. And when he made that selection of J.D. Vance, he was in the driver's seat. Now he's got a real campaign, and he's got a running mate that seems to be weighing him down, who seems to be helping with that feeling that Donald Trump is a strange guy and that the MAGA movement is a strange cult-like movement. And remember, America, I remind you this every week, and I'll remind you it now. If you are dug in on your candidate, congratulations. This campaign is not about you. Whether you're a Democrat or a Republican or lean one way or the other. This election is about 6 to 8% of Americans who haven't made up their mind yet in about 6 or 7 states. That's it. And they don't like cults. They don't like weird behavior. They want to hear what you're going to do for them. That's what they want. They don't want an airing of personal grievances and your own personal sob stories. They don't want a candidate who is going to denigrate their daughters, their wives, their mothers, their grandmothers, themselves. They don't want to hear that the vice president of the United States is dumb. Where I saw John Kennedy getting ripped apart by Neil Cavuto, Senator John Kennedy, that is. Because he called the vice president a dingbat. He said, the polling shows she's a dingbat. No, that is not what the polling shows. But, my eyes shown that Senator Kennedy is a dingbat. It is, the polling shows it, Neil. I'll show you. I'll come sit down. Yeah, okay. Idiot. America doesn't want that either. It's funny how quickly things change in American politics. Buckle up. I'll be right back. Welcome back. I am your host, Chris Hahn. I'm at Christopher Hahn on X, Christopher Hahn NY on Instagram, and ChristopherHahn.com. You could also watch me on News Nation. I'm on all the time. So just, if you don't know where News Nation is, go to newsnationnow.com or newsnation.com. Look it up. You could watch it almost anywhere else you watch news. So check out News Nation. Check me out there. So we're talking about VPs a lot. VP picks. Obviously, as I've mentioned, J.D. Vance was a weird pick. A pick that didn't give him anything, didn't give him a state, didn't give him a vote he didn't already have. And now there's all the talk about who will Harris pick for her running mate. And there's been a lot of focus on, well, it needs to be a white guy. It needs to be a white guy. I don't know. I would have gone with Big Gretch. I like Gretchen Whitmer. And by the way, Big Gretch is not a slur. There was a pretty cool rap song, about Gretchen Whitmer called Big Gretch, and you should download it. It's great. I would have gone with her. First of all, as you all heard me talk, I think she should be president of the United States someday. I think she's done a great job in Michigan. I think she's great at delivering a message to that Rust Belt voter. But right now they say it's down to Waltz and Shapiro. Roy Cooper, who over the weekend was all the rage, is the only person anybody was talking about over the weekend. At least in DNC circles and things like that. He dropped out. He dropped out because he wants to focus on winning in North Carolina. He's not on the ballot, but there is a pretty crazy Republican running for governor in North Carolina. Shapiro is a former prosecutor from Pennsylvania who is extremely popular. Waltz, the governor of Minnesota, extremely popular in Minnesota. I think I go with Shapiro in those two scenarios. Why? I think that you want to go with the younger of the two candidates. Now, you might want to say, well, maybe I put Waltz in there so that when he debates, J.D. Vance. I have an elder statesman who is clear and concise with a good military record and a good record as governor going up there. And Walz has a strong, strong reputation with labor. So there is a possibility that Walz is the stronger of the two in that regard. But Shapiro delivers a state you can't afford to lose. Minnesota hasn't voted for a Republican in over 50 years. It was the only state that Mondale won against Reagan. And, while it was a close state when Biden was in, it is no longer close in the polling. And I don't know what Walz gives you on that regard, right? He does help you with the demographic, but he doesn't necessarily give you a state. And maybe there's somebody out there that we're not really thinking about. Senator Gary Peters from Michigan maybe helps you in Michigan. I don't think that that's the way to go. I don't think a senator's the way to go. I think what you want is a young governor. And there are only really two options now that Gavin Newsom's off the table because he's from California and so is Harris. And that is Shapiro and Whitmer. And Whitmer has said she's not interested. Now, I don't know how you say no when somebody offers you this. I really just don't. I think that if you're offered it, you take it for the good of the country. And honestly, for the good of your career. Could it go wrong? Could it go horribly wrong? Have there been people who run for vice president and, their careers have spiraled out of control? Of course. But mostly it doesn't. Mostly it just raises your national profile in a positive way, even if you lose. So, I think that because, frankly, anybody who's blaming the bottom of the ticket for the failure is, being disingenuous. I've said this before. Most people don't vote for vice president. They vote for president. And to the extent the vice president can help you in a specific state or the specific demographic, that's great. But for the most part, nobody's going into the polling booth and saying, I'm voting for the vice presidential candidate. They go in to vote for the top of the ticket. So, there aren't too many things that are talked about more that matter less in politics than who you pick for vice president. Now, I get it. The Republicans have a very old candidate. He's a very old man running for president of the United States. So people might want to look at the vice president because they're not sure that the president will be capable of fulfilling a 4-year term when he's, going to be 79. So, maybe people are looking closer at J.D. Vance, and I don't think they like what they see. So perhaps it matters a little bit more on that side. And obviously it would have mattered a lot if Joe Biden stayed on the ticket, but he's not. Democrats are not running an 80-year-old for president anymore. Republicans are. And it's something people need to consider on the right side, right? Because, they're running a very old guy and the VP is a little weird. I mean, who drinks Diet Mountain Dew? You know how many other sodas you have to pass up before you get to Diet Mountain Dew? And again, I got nothing against Diet Mountain Dew. I really don't. But it did seem like an odd thing to say. And then to get, to say that we would call him a racist for drinking Diet Mountain Dew. No, I'm not going to call you a racist. I'm not for that. That's not the reason I'm going to call you a racist, JD. Trust me. There may be other things you might do. But not that. So we're off to the races. The next month is going to feel like a year and a half. Less than 100 days to go before we pick the next president of the United States. I hope you're paying attention. I guess if you're listening to me, you are. Because there's going to be a lot coming at you. Listen to this. I'll be right back. I got Olympic fever. I admit it. I get it every 2 years because I really like the Winter Olympics. I mean, 2 years ago in the Winter Olympics, there was a downhill skier who won the silver medal, and they did a profile of him. And it turns out that his mother had won a gold medal in the Olympics in the 70s, and they owned a maple syrup farm called Slopeside Syrup, and I wound up buying like a lot of maple syrup. I think I just finished it. It was really good. I like maple syrup, real maple syrup. Of course, you know me. I'm always on some sort of diet, so I'm not eating it. So it lasted a couple of years. What's bothering me today is that for some reason, somebody, well, I know the reason, and we'll go through it in a minute. Someone decided to fake outrage over the opening ceremonies. Now, I watched them. And, call me naive. I found them a little boring. I thought it was kind of cool to have the boats and the athletes on the boats. And it must have been thrilling for the athletes and the people of France who lined the Seine to see the athletes go by in the boats. But, I think when NBC aired it 5 hours after it actually happened, they probably should have edited it, right? They probably should have edited it. We didn't need 3 hours of boats going down the river, because that's what I turned it off for a little while, put on a show I'm watching called The Bear. I'm up to episode 8, season 3, the current season. And I turned it back on. The boats were still going down the river. But I guess there was something that somebody on the internet thought was sacrilegious, and they worked people up into a frenzy. And I don't even know what it was, because I watched the whole thing, and other than the half an hour I was watching The Bear, and didn't seem like there was anything other than normal Olympic stuff. And then, some French stuff, because the French are the French. And I don't know, maybe that was offensive to somebody who feels that everything should be middle American. I don't know why. But here's the thing. The Olympics is like one of those things that should bring us all together. Should make us all happy to root for the Team USA, whether you are left or right. But you see, the media reward system in this country, particularly the social media reward system, doesn't really reward positivity. You've got to be negative. You got to be hating. You got to say that one side has been wrong. You got to be aggrieved. The people who are engaged in this kind of behavior, they are bad actors. They do not have the best interest of you or the country at heart. They just want you to be angry. I've been thinking about my role in this over the last couple of weeks, since the former president, the assassination attempt on the former president. And I think every couple of years I reflect on my role in this, because it does bother me that I exist in a world where I get more clicks when I'm taking it to the other side, right? Like really just hitting them hard. Can't have an honest debate and just have facts and people debate, what's the best policy to move the country forward. No, the other side's got to be the devil, and they're out to get you, and they don't care about your values, and you've got to be angry all the time. I don't want people who listen to me to be angry. In fact, if my broadcast doesn't bring you joy, feel free to turn it off. I mean, sorry to my stations. Sorry to my podcast company. But it's not something that I want. I don't want people to be angry listening to me. And when I saw this nonsense going around about the opening ceremonies of the Olympics, people saying they were going to boycott the Olympics because I don't know what happened. I honestly don't even know. I tried to dig into this whole meme that was going around the internet. I couldn't figure it out. Something sacrilegious. God forbid. I didn't know what it was. I saw Celine Dion singing a song that sounded like it should be sung in church. That was brilliant. I saw a pretty cool balloon being lit with the cauldron. I thought that was pretty cool. And I saw Carl Lewis and Serena Williams and other international superstars given a place of honor in the torch run, which I thought was very generous of the French. Usually it's the home country's athletes who are given that last leg. And they were given the ultimate last leg. And I thought it was great. Don't let people make you mad. They're doing it for profit. They want you angry all the time because if you're angry, you'll keep listening. I don't want you to listen to me for that. I want you to listen to me because you're entertained and informed. And maybe you just want to hear my opinion. Listen to this. I'll be right back. Welcome back. I am Chris Hahn. I'm at Christopher Hahn on X, Christopher Hahn, NY on Instagram, and ChristopherHahn.com. Those are my socials. Watch me on News Nation. I'm on all the time. News Nation, it's news for all Americans. So just piggybacking on what I was saying before, right? People want you mad for the wrong reasons, and they want you to ignore things that should get you concerned, right? So over the weekend, while the right-wing hate machine was trying to get you mad about the Olympics, the former president of the United States was giving a rally where he said, just vote. You won't have to vote again ever. It's all going to be fixed. You won't have to vote in 4 years. Look, I think that's something you should be more concerned about than whether or not your religion was offended by a foreign country during their opening ceremonies of a sporting event. I just do. I think that we all wanted to try to take a new tone and try to bring people together in the wake of what happened a couple of weeks ago when he was, shot at. And I, for one, have been trying. But he won't let me. I mean, that's the kind of statement that sends a shiver down my spine. We already have evidence that he tried to overthrow one election. What he's saying to you now is, this will be the last election. Am I supposed to ignore that? Are we supposed to just be more mad that there was like some sort of graphic at an Olympic opening? They didn't, they used CGI in the opening ceremonies of the Olympics. This is the problem in America. People want you to be mad all the time and ignore things that really impact you. Whether or not the French weren't, Christian enough in their opening ceremony has nothing to do with your life. It won't make you happier. It won't make you sadder. It won't make you richer or poorer. It won't pay a bill for you. It won't make you freer or less free. But a man running for president who says this is the last time you will ever have to vote, that does impact you, whether you think he's on your side or not. Because just because he's on your side today doesn't mean he'll be on your side tomorrow. And that's the beautiful thing about elections. When people don't act the way we want them, we can throw them out without force. We don't use violence to change our country in America. We use the ballot. We use speech and debate. We use the freedoms that so many have fought and died for over the 240 plus years that this country has existed. And the greatest right of all is the right to vote. And when Trump's telling his supporters that 4 years from now, you won't have to vote anymore, what does that mean? And don't tell me he was joking or riffing or whatever. He has shown this about himself before. He has admiration for people who don't get elected, at least in the real sense of what an election is. Why aren't we jumping up and down, screaming and shouting about that? Why is that not more important to, quote unquote, Christian conservatives on the internet? Because I don't believe they're conservatives. I don't even believe they're Christians. I read the Bible. I know what Christ thought. His first rule was love one another. And I didn't see him, talking about being hateful to people. I mean, I always say, fear and hate are the two weapons that the right wing uses. And to be fair, some people on the left use it as well. To just scare you into giving up your freedom. I choose hope and love and hard work. I mean, these are the things that I believe we need to be fighting for in America today. And we need to stop following people who will keep you living in fear for your entire existence. No peace in your life because you must be afraid. Remember what Yoda said about fear? Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to hate. Anger leads to anger. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. I mean, you know, true. Absolutely true. And it just bothers me. Day in and day out. All I see is a race to the bottom. Who can keep you most afraid of what? You don't even know what you should really be afraid of anymore. You're trusting people who you shouldn't trust. If I'm talking to you right now and you were upset for even 30 seconds about what happened at the opening ceremony of the Olympics, that was 30 seconds too long. That brought you no joy. It brought you nothing. Nothing but another stress line. So all I'm saying to you is this. Don't be caught up in the fear and hate game. There's too much of it in this world. And life is too short to be wasting any time being angry about things that don't really impact you. No. Think about how you can make your life better, how you can make your family's lives better. Don't get caught up in the hate game. They want you to hate things that you can't see, can't touch, and don't impact you. I mean, one of these days I'm going to go through this Project 2025, which he did. He completely endorsed, by the way, Trump. I know he says he doesn't know anything about it now that it's unpopular. But we won't do that today. But I think you've had enough of me for one day. So I'm going to remind you now, as I always do, to seek the truth. Question everyone and everything, even me. Seek the truth. I know it's out there, and I know you'll find it if you look for it. And I'll be back here again next week to tell you the truth as I see it. I'm Chris Hahn. Thank you for listening to the Aggressive Progressive Podcast.